welcome to the webinar. Thank you so much for being here. We're excited to get started and dive into this topic with everyone today. So we have a really good event planned. We have a ton of content coming out for you. And so let's go ahead and we're going to get started in just a second. We're going to give a little bit for folks to start trickling in. I know if you guys are like me, you're probably on calls back to back all day, so you need a second in between. For those of you who have already joined, we'll get started in just a little bit. Just get situated, take some time, relax. We're going to let some more folks join, but while we're doing that, I want us to double check a feature that we're going to use a lot today, and that's going to be the GoToWebinar question box feature. Go look over in your GoToWebinar panel, and you should see the question box there. That is essentially going to be your chat feature for the day. So you'll be able to see responses or any of the questions that you put into that box. You're not going to be able to chat with other attendees. And again, we won't use the actual chat feature, but you'll use the question box and it'll be like your chat feature for today. So for us to get started and sort of get acquainted with that question box, let's type in and say hello and let me know where you're calling in from today. So that's one of my favorite things about doing these webinars is that you get to connect with people from all different corners of the country, and we're all here for one common goal to improve our marketing. So it's just really neat to see where everyone's calling in from and just see the reach and the effort that everyone's going to put in today. I'll call out some responses in just a second. I just want to see who we have on the call. So for example, I'm calling in from Louisiana. I'm based out of North Louisiana. I was born and raised here. Let me know where you're calling from. All right, I see some stuff coming in. I see Miami. I see Amanda from Indiana, Connecticut, Calgary. Hey, Brian, I love having our Canada friends on here. Atlanta, another Indiana, nice. Calling from Louisville. Good deal, Oregon. I see Texas. Washington, let's see, more Texas. You guys are my neighbors. Good to have you here. I see some Arkansas. That's wonderful. See some South Dakota. Good to have you. Hello from Minneapolis. Hello to you too. I see Cape Cod, another Canadian, and Vancouver. Good deal. All right, so keep putting where you're calling in from. I want to see where everyone's coming in from today, and I want to make sure that we're all comfortable with that question box. It's really, really neat. I see everyone's responses coming in. More Canada, Massachusetts, tons of people are typing in right now, and it's a lot of fun. I'd love to call everybody out right now. We've got people from all over, and again, it's all for that one common goal, to show up for our marketing and to show up for our businesses. So let's go ahead and see what we have up next. All right, I'm going to kick off today's webinar with a couple of housekeeping items. So for everyone on the call today, note that today's session will be recorded. That's probably one of the most common questions that we get. So you don't have to worry about taking notes. You'll get the materials in your inbox later on, and that will include a copy of the slides and the recording. So note that all of our webinar recordings can be easily found on the WordStream and LocalIQ YouTube channels as well. So you would just navigate to YouTube, you would type in LocalIQ or WordStream, click on one of our channels, and you'll be able to see all of our past webinar recordings there. If you want to catch up on any of our old ones, or maybe you want to view this one again and don't feel like digging for the link, you can find it there on our YouTube channels later on. So also, the reason why I have you guys practice using that question box is because I want you to feel comfortable typing your questions throughout the webinar. So we'll be sure to have our Q&A at the end. Be sure to stick around for that. It's a live session where I go through all of your questions. We pick out some of the ones that we can answer here today. And it's just a really neat experience. Feels sort of like a one-on-one conversation. So stick around for that and be sure to save some questions for the end. All right, before we go any further, I want to go ahead and get us on the same page as to who LocalIQ is. What is LocalIQ? So some of you might already be working with us and know us that way. Some of you might be totally new, and that's great too. Some of you might be familiar with us through our thought leadership brand, WordStream by Local IQ. Some of you may be working with one of our Gannett local newspaper properties. So how do we all fit together? That's a good question. So Local IQ is how businesses like yours attract and retain the ideal customer. And so we do it in three main ways. We have an all-in-one digital marketing platform that helps you get the inside track. It's filled and educated by vertical specific data from millions of campaigns over 20 plus years of doing digital marketing. We take a personalized approach to local marketing. Our experts are going to know your industry and they're going to get what's right for you. And then with our lead management and AI tools, we help get you a step ahead with better follow-up and better conversion of your leads. So one more thing that we're really proud of that I want to brag about is that we are a premier partner with all major advertising platforms. And those badges are not just something that is granted to any marketing platform out there. It's really only given to businesses that display clear campaign success for their customers. We display thought leadership within the field, and then we have to meet a rigorous set of requirements for each one of those platforms. All right, a little bit about me. Allow me to introduce myself. I'll be your webinar host and facilitator today. If you're new here, my name is Katie. Here at Local IQ, I work closely with our teams on our digital marketing. And for the last 10 plus years, I've worked in one capacity or another in digital marketing here at Local IQ, equipping sales teams, agencies, individual business owners with whatever they need to succeed. And then if you couldn't tell by my accent, I'm located in the southern US in Louisiana, but I always tell people I'm not in the fun part of Louisiana. I'm about 5 hours north of New Orleans. All right. And then before we dive in, the last couple of things I want to mention are around some really common questions that we get in addition to, is this going to be recorded? We also get questions about where people can learn more about the topics that we cover here. So I'm not going to lie, this is going to go really fast. This time is going to fly by. So if you have ever felt like you need more time to sit with some of the topics that we're going to cover today, or maybe the topics that we cover in any of our webinars, I highly recommend that you go to Local IQ or our WordStream websites. We cover everything that we cover here in these webinars in depth over there on our sites, as well as on our social media. So be sure to follow us. We share out notifications for future events. So if you want to join more webinars in the future, definitely be sure to follow us and turn on your post notifications. And then we also share out platform updates, interesting articles, and all sorts of information that advertisers or business owners would need to be aware of. And so you can find us on all of those social media platforms in front of you, either through Local IQ or through WordStream. All right, so pop quiz time. If any of you have attended our webinars in the past, you know that we love to keep our listeners on their toes around here. So to warm us up for the topic today, then let's hit it with this quick pop quiz. I want you to type into the question box and let me know, what is your biggest marketing challenge during your busy season? So your busy season could be the holidays coming up. It could be a certain time of year. You know, seasonal marketing doesn't have to mean the holidays that are in just the fourth quarter. So seasonal marketing can include any time that you're putting forth a ton of effort to get in your leads, and it's your heaviest lead volume time. It's when your teams are going to be the busiest and when you know you're going to be strapped for time. So during those busy seasons, maybe you're in one now, what's the biggest challenge for you when you're trying to market during that time? Maybe it's that you can't market. You're so busy trying to deal with all the leads and the business that's coming in. You're trying to get jobs done, get trucks out on the road. Maybe it's what you're going to do with the leads after the season is over. Start thinking through it. Like I said, maybe you're in the thick of it right now. Maybe you're coming up on it. So let's talk a little bit. Let me go to the question box and let me see. Day-to-day performance and consistency. Absolutely. We will talk a little bit about that I'm assuming you're talking about your campaigns and your campaign consistency. We'll talk about looking at data and what to do about that. I also see creating marketing content that stands out. Yes, we will talk about that too. We're going to talk about what it means to advertise during the seasonal time of year, and make it to where you don't just get caught up in all the noise. Finding a meeting time that suits everyone's schedules, man, I feel that to my core. That is my day-to-day life, trying to find time on people's calendars, especially my own. I see some one-man sales and marketing team trying to do it all, wearing all the hats, doing all the stuff. I can't imagine that. And then having to manage your business and do the marketing at the same time. Quality leads. That's a really good one. You may get flooded with leads, but are they all quality? Not all leads are created equal. Again, we've got someone else who's talking about, tire kickers versus people who are ready to make a decision and ready to buy. We have Desiree who's talking about maybe putting campaigns up at once and then trying to measure them all. Awesome problems, because we're going to talk about each of those and how to maybe help with some of that. Tips and tricks. You're not alone. I see a lot of the same answers, but I also see a lot of different answers. And I think that that's because we all have different businesses. We have different perspectives. Everybody is unique in how they're coming to the webinar today. So what we're going to do is, as we go through this topic, I just want you to be thinking about how all of this can apply to your specific business and your unique situation. So those things that are the problems for you, your pain points, your challenges for this season, or whatever your busy season is. And at the end of the day, everyone's going to have a different experience. So hopefully we'll have some information for you. All right, so before we jump in, and here's what we're going to cover. Here's what our hour is going to look like today. So we're going to talk about common seasonal pitfalls. So these are your challenges that you fall into and then you can't figure out how to get out of them or maybe overcome them. We're going to figure out how to avoid them before you even get in there. Then we're going to talk about smarter seasonal strategies that drive results. That's the key there. These aren't just strategies that are going to get you some bulk in with all the tire kickers. We're going to talk about things that actually drive results. And then we're going to give you some actionable marketing ideas for the last half of this year. And then we'll get into that Q&A that I talked about. All right, so again, whether it's an obvious change in behavior based on the time of year, like we have the end of year holidays that are coming up, or the changing of the seasons themselves, maybe going from winter to spring, or a trend that repeats itself and that's very specific for your industry year after year, there are going to be quite a few strategies that you can employ to make the most of all of these seasonal changes. However, 80% of seasonal campaigns drive activity, but they don't necessarily create sustained growth. So when we're talking about the leads coming in and the people who are just sort of asking questions or looking around, or maybe you make you close a deal, but then your business is really slow for the rest of the year. So let's dive into why most of the seasonal campaigns fail to deliver some really long-term impact. So one of the first common mistakes is generic creative. We talked about standing out. Well, one of the mistakes that you can make is using the same ads or the same messages year after year. This can really make your brand seem outdated. Your ad can appear kind of boring, or maybe it's not memorable to viewers, and ultimately it's going to lose its impact over time. You're going to want to focus on unique, well-designed, and even interactive creative. We'll talk about that in a second. That is going to increase engagement. It can generate attention and leads. It can boost sharing, and then it'll lift your brand retention. Second up is poor targeting. So mistakes here include failing to understand your audience, maybe something as fundamental as that. You don't truly understand maybe who's coming into your business. You're not targeting a holiday or seasonal related search intent. You're not tailoring campaigns to fit whatever trending search themes are happening around that time of year. Or maybe there's, leveraging audience targeting. You're not able to do that. So all of this can result in campaigns that don't really resonate or address specific customer needs effectively. or maybe it causes you to show up for the wrong audience. And then lastly, a lack of post-season follow-up. This means you're missing the chance to either reward loyalty and maintain those customer relationships year-round, or you're not able to stay on top of what came in during the busy season to go back and follow up and continue that relationship throughout the year. So, I'm sure some of these resonate with you guys. They're common for a reason. Again, you're not alone. So now let's talk about these pitfalls and then how we're going to avoid them. So back to that creative, that generic creative. Some of you even talked about being able to come up with unique creative. That was a challenge for you. So creative that converts is going to be really, really important. Creative that stands out, but without cliches. It's really easy to fall into a seasonal cliche. It just, ring in the new year. It's right there. But you can use festive images. You can use seasonal color palettes. You just need to be careful to avoid anything that's overused or maybe some generic creatives that just aren't getting updated. Over half of consumers say that they ignore cliche seasonal ads. So in order to stand out from the crowd, your ads need to be relevant, but also authentic. So one overlooked way of standing out is by using interactive content like a poll or a quiz, even image sliders that gets people to stay on your ad and engage with it. And you can even include something like an assessment as an interactive piece of creative. So again, content like quizzes and polls encourage active participation. It makes it more engaging than any other type of content. It's not as easy to scroll past it if it's something that they can engage in. It's also a really good source of customer data. Again, if you're trying to learn your audience, a simple poll asking maybe what color or fragrance or style, you should include in your next product launch or your next order, whatever it is that your business is, things like that are really, really valuable consumer data. And so you can run that ad, you can capture that audience, but then you can also capture some data as well. Interactive content can also help you generate attention and leads. It generates up to 3 times higher click-through rates and enjoys double the conversion rate. And then again, because you're engaging with it, you find it cool. It also boosts virality, which means you're more likely to share something that's engaging, that you can interact with, that you liked. People just want to tell their friends what they like too. So it motivates a lot of that social sharing and then amplifies whatever your message is. And then because of that, it makes your brand and your ads more memorable. So it can lift that brand retention. It sticks with you and they're much more likely to remember your brand way past your season. And don't be afraid to think outside the box with your targeting and really challenge your usual assumptions. We talked about, thinking outside of the box with your creative. Your targeting really shouldn't be any different. Buyer behavior changes every year as platforms change, as new social options come out. It's something that you need to stay informed about and really understand, again, what your audience is doing. And then target holiday specific search themes and trends. It's really important to regularly review your search terms report, and that way you can find whatever new keywords you need to add to the account, and that's going to help capture any of those shifting behaviors that we just talked about. And then we'll talk more about this later on in our presentation, but historical data is going to be so important. It's really helpful to help you forecast whatever's coming up down the line. And so, things like that are what makes, having a partner that you work with so effective. But it's also something that makes our platform so smart. I talked about how we have all these campaigns that we've run for 20 plus years, millions of successful campaigns that work for businesses that are just like yours, whatever vertical it might be in, whatever industry it might be in. And so it takes all of those things into account. And so for, our friends who are wearing multiple hats and trying to figure out how to do it all, that's when it comes into having a partnership can be really, really valuable. And then post-season follow-up. We talked a little bit about this. only 1 in 4 businesses follows up with a seasonal lead. And I think this resonates probably with all of you. I remember seeing some of your challenges that you put in earlier. Time. It's your busy season for a reason. You're busy. So you're lacking a lot of time. Maybe tracking. It's difficult to understand where the lead came in, and then to keep track of that lead once it comes in, and being able to prioritize it, know which lead is coming and just trying to get information, and then which lead has really high intent and is ready to buy. And then a lack of automation. I think that keeps businesses from being able to follow up, because as you're living in this time that is so limited, it's almost like you need multiple versions of you. You need more help. And so having automation that works to maybe book appointments or to follow up on leads, help you prioritize leads, things like our Dash voice agents, things like our dashboard for reporting, a CRM, a customer relationship management system that allows you to email people when you're asleep. Your emails can be getting ready to go out. Having that sort of technology and, again, that partnership for postseason follow-up is going to be really, really important. But even during your busy season, you're going to need help managing all of that. So, all right, quick quiz time, but I think we all know the answer. Always on marketing, meaning marketing campaigns that run throughout the year without stopping. This always means higher cost versus if you're running 2 to 3 seasonal marketing campaigns. False. It's a myth. Always on marketing does not have to mean higher cost. So with the right planning, it's a really effective budget strategy. And so if you think about it, with a seasonal campaign or any sort of sporadic marketing, you're going to experience a loss of momentum. You've got time-consuming manual adjustments to get campaigns back up and running. You're really missing out on optimization. So these campaigns can learn over time, and you're missing out on that. And then you've got this really inconsistent customer acquisition. You're kind of picking up customers here and there. There's not a consistent inflow. But with an always-on plan, instead of investing some sort of large chunk in a short-term campaign, you end up spreading that budget more evenly across multiple channels. So search or social or display, and then you're reaping the benefits that we discussed a little while ago. So it gives you an overall better return on your budget. So seasonal marketing is really important because you need to shift your strategy. Your goal is going to be different, but I really like to encourage our clients to think through what a year-round strategy could be, because that's going to be better for the longevity of your business and the effectiveness of your campaigns. All right, so pop quiz. Find that question box. How far in advance do you typically start planning for your seasonal campaigns? This is probably confession time. If you are a procrastinator and you're like, I'm in my busy season now and I don't do planning, I'm just doing it on the fly, I'm winging it. Or maybe you are very regimented. Maybe you have a team that really supports you and you are looking at 6+ months ahead of your busy season planning. Let me know, where is everybody at in this concept today? I see 3 months. That's really good. That's a really good. 3 months is pretty good. About a month prior. I think a lot of this depends on your kind of business too. Like what seasonal marketing means for you can be different based on your business. Maybe you don't need to do it well in advance, or maybe you don't have the team. You just don't like to do it. I understand that. Amanda, crunch time. I'm kind of like that too. I work really good under pressure, so I do it to myself. If you wait until the last minute, so I see 1 month before, I get it. Sometimes that's what happens. And you're always beating yourself up the next time that you do it. You're like, if I would just take a second and plan a little bit more in advance, it wouldn't be so chaotic. I understand. 2 months, planning for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Good job. I love it. Okay, so everyone is in a different place. Again, it depends on your business, depends on your personality. but we can help you walk through what that planning should look like, maybe what can make it a little easier and maybe not have you dread it so much. All right, so let's talk about strategies that drive results. So no matter which season affects your business, whether it's a holiday season or a time of year, creating a strategy that is specific to that time, but then also beyond, is going to be a really important part of capitalizing on the busy season. So one of the ways that you can do this is remarketing list. This is a solid staple. It's not only part of regular campaigns, but also when your seasonal promotions come around. It's a really great way to reach back into those valuable groups of users. Like, let's say you had some cart abandoners, or maybe some users who purchased last year through a sale, or some customers who signed up to be notified when a sale was coming on. Maybe they came in and looked around or asked questions last year, but you weren't able to get them to make a purchase at that time. Maybe you have some people following up with some newsletter signups. So remarketing lists are going to be huge for those kinds of groups to help you catch those people who were interested, but maybe just didn't follow through across the finish line. And then here's a pro tip that probably everyone can resonate with. Don't forget about having a really solid lead management system in place to keep those leads moving through the funnel. You know, maybe you're just building awareness for your product. Maybe they found you and they're interested, but then they get sidetracked. You have a long buying cycle. You know, it's whatever you're able to do through that lead management system. It's what's going to keep everybody moving and then really help expedite your follow-ups. So I highly recommend that you look into solutions that allow you to do that. For Local IQ, for us, that looks like something that we call Dash. It's our AI lead management software. And so it helps create that closed loop system from when they see your ad to final conversion. And then it incorporates that automation that we talked about and the prioritization. And so I think the combination of the two is what's going to be really helpful, so that you're not just spitting out campaigns, you're putting together a strategy. And then when we think about seasonal marketing, again, it's really easy to focus on just, you know, the peak months or the holidays, but the real success is what happens when you're building around consumer behavior. So not just the dates on the calendar. That talks about the funnel, about bringing interest to someone, bringing an awareness to someone versus when they actually make a purchase. So what you see here is a sample buying journey for a couple. So what you should notice here is how this is not a linear path. It doesn't follow just one channel. It's not a straight line. I mean, think about your own customers or even your own personal buying journey for certain items. You know, tell me, what's the first behavior that you usually see that signals that they're ready to buy? Drop it into the question box. You know, what is it what activity is it that is usually your first signal that someone's ready to engage? You know, for this particular slide, you can see here, and again, I'm sure in your own life, it's a multi-step, cross-channel, behavior-driven process. And so from this particular journey, they see a Facebook ad. Then a few days later, they did a search on Yelp to read a review. Then maybe a few days later, they see another ad on Instagram. Then they decide to go to the website. Then they go search maybe for other competitors or to research the topic. You know, all of those moments are opportunities for your business and your brand to show up. And you can see that chat is included on here. That's a really great way to engage with people who are finding interest or maybe gathering research. I see research as one of the first signals for some people, asking about a specific product. They book a call. That's a really great first signal, you know, and there were probably things that happened before that phone call that got them to that point. So the focus here is, it's not about one ad or one date. It's really about your company and your business being present and being relevant at every stage of the journey for your particular customers. Platforms that provide really rich audience insight, like Local IQs, that can help you target based on behavior, not just season. So you're showing up where people are. And then also, again, using things like our AI dashboard, it can really enhance your campaign performance. Using AI insights, lead conversion data, it can help you better understand what that journey looks like for your specific customers. And then one of the biggest misconceptions about seasonal marketing is that more spend always equals more leads. I think that that's maybe a misconception in general. But with the right approach, you can generate more leads while getting a better budget, a healthier budget, a budget that fits for your particular business. And so there's, three key tactics that you can use to make that possible. You can leverage automated bidding strategies. So these are tools like local IQs, cross-media optimization technology. This kind of stuff is going to help you get the most out of every dollar. The platform optimizes in real time, so it reduces your cost per lead and it ensures your budget is working as effectively as possible. Then second, you can't just set it and forget it. That's not what digital marketing is. And seasonal campaigns specifically are going to be dynamic. And so you want to track performance daily, adjusting budgets, creative as you see shifts in engagement. Again, optimization and then automation technologies are going to be a huge help for you there. And then finally, focus on retargeting. Again, warm leads are significantly cheaper to convert than something that's cold. So retargeting can reduce your CPLs by up to 50%, which is why it's such a critical part of the strategy. The key message here is efficiency. By combining automation, daily monitoring, or that automatic optimization, and smart retargeting, you can stretch that seasonal budget further and make the most of it. Get the most out of every single dollar and get a stronger ROI. AI-powered platforms like ours are able to optimize and monitor and then control Google and Meta's automatic bidding. So it helps you spend smarter, especially during those seasonal spikes. And then, dashboards like ours give you a real-time insight into your budgets. You always know what's happening. So let me know in the chat if retargeting is built for your strategy. I'd be interested if it's something that you incorporate, if it's a new concept, if maybe you've just never thought of it before or were a little hesitant to implement it. Let me know where you are with that particular tactic. One of the most powerful tools in seasonal marketing is actually what has already happened. So we talked about this earlier around the importance of historical data. It helps you forecast what's coming and then prepare for the fluctuations in the future. So time frame reporting is going to help identify trends. It's going to help set benchmarks, and it'll allow you to identify those top performing campaign assets. So what creatives performed best, what ad copy performed best. And then speaking of benchmarks, sort of an aside, we have our new 2025 benchmarks reports for search and for Facebook. And so be sure to head over to our website so you can get your own copy there, and you can use those benchmarks to help inform whatever forecasting and whatever future decisions you're able to make. So you can review performance. This means your keywords, campaigns, audience data, all during that seasonal time frame to see if there's anything that stands out. So just look at last year, see what was doing well, see what maybe needed some improvement. Leverage a really long look back window and then review those trends for high, low conversion rates or increase, decrease cost. Note that the time of year they occur, when are these things happening and for how long? And then see if there's a repeating pattern. All of that will really help inform your future decisions. And that's part of kind of what makes, one of the things that makes platforms or partnerships with other technology groups really important is, for us, we have millions of campaigns that work for businesses, like whatever it is your business is, whatever the vertical, we've likely run it. And so we have that historical data that's already part of our platform, and it feeds into all of the optimization, all of the budget recommendations. And so you're able to not necessarily have to dig into the numbers yourself and take that extra time, but you can see what's being recommended and why it's being recommended. And so by looking at that time frame reporting, either whether it's week over week or month over month, year over year, You're able to spot those patterns in performance. And then this allows you to set those benchmarks so you know what looks good, you know what it doesn't look so good, and then whatever decisions you need to make for the next steps. And then remember, your goal here isn't just to measure what happened last season. You're not just wanting to get data points. It's to use those insights then to build a smarter, more predictable strategy for the next season. Again, we're not just going to do campaigns. We're looking at a full strategy. So that's going to help you understand how to allocate your spend, which messages resonate, and then how to adjust in real time whenever that performance shifts. Next, for my non-planners in the group chat, we have some helpful templates because one of our tips is to get ahead of whatever content or whatever ads you're going to want to do. Get ahead of it as much as you can, using monthly schedules to help plan out your social posts, to help plan out your ads, when your season is, what time frame that is. There are free resources. We have a planning template that helps you outline your content months in advance. And then there's also tons of useful scheduling features, either directly on platforms or within other software providers, that allow you to take that additional load off of your team so that you're not feeling like every day you're having to churn out something and you're really just reacting. All right, another pop quiz. So, which channels do you expect to have the biggest seasonal lift for your business? So when we talk about channels, we're thinking about things like search. So Google, Yahoo, we're thinking about Meta, Facebook, and Instagram. Display, are those part of your strategy? Is that where you get the biggest lift? Do you see the biggest lift for your SEO? Maybe you're doing some things there, your search results. So let me know where everyone is with what's actually working. I think that we all have our tried and true things that work for us, but maybe that's not exactly what we want to do again this year, or maybe we want to expand that. You know, there's email marketing, there's chat, there's all of these different channels, and they can tie back to that consumer journey that we talked about. Based on the behavior of what your buyer is doing, you can show up for some of that. And so I see some people, Facebook and Google, TikTok, nice, Facebook. I see a lot of Google, SEO, a lot of Facebook, some Instagram. Okay, interesting. So I love how everyone's involved in some sort of search or social. I see LinkedIn or Meta paid ads. Those are awesome. And it's even better as if you're mixing them up, because again, you're hitting your audience in different places. All right, so now let's talk about some Q4 marketing ideas. We've covered strategies to maximize the performance. So now let's shift gears and then let's look at some stuff that you can actually put in action. So first up is October. If you're like me, you cannot believe that October is coming so quickly. But one of the things that we see is that for October, it could be really beneficial for you to utilize video in some form or fashion. You know, 72% of consumers would rather learn about a product or service through a video than a text. So I think that especially if you've got something that is complicated that you're selling, your business is built on maybe something that people don't readily see, maybe a roofing company, and so you want to show the quality of your product or how the process works. Videos are really, really good for that. They're also really engaging if you show some behind the scenes content, maybe you introduce your team. It helps to humanize your brand and your business, makes people feel a lot more comfortable and close to you, and it'll help them remember you a lot more. So for October, you could do things like grab your cell phone, make a really quick video of walking through your office or maybe your floor, whatever your location is. Show people what it's like where you work. You could do it going live on Facebook or Instagram. That's really fun and helps build engagement. And then you can also test YouTube ads. You know, a lot of people are a little shy of YouTube because they have to produce the video, and so that's something that intimidates them. But I think that we're getting to a point where AI tools and things like Canva are really helping people take that creative into their own hands. And honestly, the more organic something feels, the more likely someone is to feel like there's a genuine connection. So don't let that scare you away. Then next up is November. So if there is a way to get into November to capture your leads, that's right before some of the busier Q4 holidays start, and then you're getting into the December holidays. I've talked about chat a couple of times. Live chat is such a good way to collect information and to capture leads as they come in. You can do it through your website. There's SMS texting. There's ways that you can have a voice agent that's part of the chat experience. And so you don't have to physically man the chat. You can load it with a script so it can provide the basic information, but then also collect things like name, number, email address, all of those things that you want to see as part of your strategy so that you can follow up with people later on. And honestly, chat has become so common and so used that 40% of customers expect it on a website. And so I think finding a live chat partner who has the technology so that it feels genuine, it feels helpful, but is also helping you at the same time is what can be really important. And then December. So closing out the year strong, I think what is really helpful is some SEO. I saw folks mention that as one of their channels that is really helpful during the busy season. And it makes sense because if you are utilizing SEO, that means you're going to get found more easily in search engines. So when someone goes to Google to learn more about a particular product, or maybe they're going to do a local search. They're looking for, home renovation near me or something along those lines. Having an SEO site, having ads that are optimized to that are going to really help you be able to show up, making sure that your listings are up to date, your location's up to date, your hours, those kinds of things are going to be really important to help people continue to find you and then continue to come back to you. And I think it's really important, especially as you're getting ready to go into your busy season, do a little audit. Check out your website, check out all of the places where people can find you. Make sure the information's updated, make sure the links are correct. You don't want to get a lead almost to your front door just to then have them turn away because something just isn't working or isn't updated. And then I think it's really important as part of that audit, go ahead and read through your site, go through some of your social posts. Does it still make sense? Is this how you're still operating? Is this what's helping you close your business? And I think that doing that as you get ready for your busy season or as you're in the midst of it, as you're getting all these leads in, is going to go a long way. That online experience is going to be really important for people to go that next step. All right, so like I said, that was a lot to take in. Now let's do something with it. So if you had to summarize what we talked about in just 3 things, here's what I would say. Get ahead. The sooner the launch, the better, to ensure that your ads are active in the right places at the right time. So for, again, all of my people, I am with you, who are waiting to the last minute, who are doing it right now, I understand. But it will serve you so much better in the long run to get ahead of where you need to be before everything launches. And then don't forget to seal those deals. Make sure that you have a lead management system in place to follow up and then convert those leads into customers. Don't let somebody come in, say they're interested, and then they just never get a phone call back because everything was just too crazy and hectic. And then dig into that data. So help yourself make better decisions, optimize your performance, look at your data, look back at your business from your past year, see what worked, what didn't, and that's really going to set you up for success as you go into whatever your busy season is. All right, this was a ton of information, and I'm sure there are a lot of questions and a lot of thoughts. I saw a lot of questions coming through the chat. So have no fear. We have launched a poll up on your screen. And if you have a specific question to your business, maybe you're ready to run your seasonal campaign past someone, just get their thoughts, some tips and tricks, click yes to that poll. Maybe you're ready to take your strategy past just the seasonal marketing. This is an opportunity to do that. This is a chance to talk to someone one-on-one about your business, the specifics of your business. That poll is going to stay up on your screen for the rest of our session today. So this sort of moves us into the audio portion of our segment. You can sit back, you can relax, sort of start processing all of the information. And this is when we're going to go into our questions. So if you have not asked a question yet, but you've been sitting on something, get into that question box. Let me know what you're thinking, what your questions are. Like I said, it was a lot of information. There's a lot of stuff to cover. Let me know what you're thinking. What was coming to mind as we were talking about things like historical data? You know, how can you look at that? What sources are the best? Maybe you're worried about creative. You know, what tools can you use to help create things that catch people's attention? So let me know. And then if at any point you're like, you know what, I don't have time for this, or I'm too busy, or I'm really interested in what a strategy could look like that is elevated by working with a partner, click yes to that poll and we'll be able to have someone get in touch with you. Okay, so, and again, we will have this recording available to send out later on. It'll come to you with the slides through email, and then put any questions that you have in that chat. I'm going to go ahead and take a look now. Oh, we've got a bunch coming through. Okay, so I've got one question around creative. So how do you make an ad that stands out through your season? Well, so I think you take sort of a layered approach. You want to understand your business and you want to understand your audience. What resonates with them in your particular problem that you're solving for them? And you want to speak directly to that. And then you want to have creative that aligns with your brand. Sometimes it's really tempting to want to do something kind of wild and crazy and eye-catching for that reason. It's eye-catching. But if you're going to build brand consistency over time, it's really important to make sure that your creative maintains that line, that it represents who you are and who your business is. And then I think taking a look at what has helped, what's performed best over the past. You know, where did you get a lot of engagement? Was it something that was interactive, like we talked about earlier with a poll or an assessment? Or, you know, was it a specific photo? Maybe it was a product photo or a photo of your solution or someone who works for the team. Think through those things because, again, you can incorporate the aesthetics of a season. You can incorporate the messaging of a season. It doesn't have to maybe lean into cliches. And that'll help you stand out to the right people who you want to click on your ads. Okay, so we have one question that's really interesting. So we have products specific to clients that's not something tangible. So how do we keep it relevant without just repeating ourselves? So this is a really good question because there is nothing wrong with repeating yourself. I would say that is the superpower of marketing. So a consumer has to see an ad 7 times at least before they actually click on it, make a decision, remember your brand. So repeating yourself is okay. AI tools can be really helpful because there's a million different ways to say something that maybe you haven't thought of before. So leveraging tools like ChatGPT, you can enter in whatever your service or your product is, help me create ways to say X, Y, and Z. That's a little different. I think also incorporating video will be really helpful as well, especially if it's not something that's tangible. You know, you would be the tangible thing, your people, your business, explaining what it is that you're doing, explaining how you do it, and then doing it in a way that's really personable and fits your brand and your buyers. I think those are the ways that you can really refresh, even if you are saying the same thing. And even if you're saying it differently, if you present it in a different way, either through video or something interactive, that's where you can really leverage the uniqueness and get people to buy in and interact a little bit more. All right, let's see. Let me see. Oh, I've got so many. Some of these are really, really specific for your business. And so if that is you, click yes to that poll. I want to make sure that you are getting the answer that is right for you in your specific situation. And so be sure to click yes to that poll if you're coming in with a question and it's really, really specific to your vertical. All right, so we are going to be able to take one more question. I see a question around data and making decisions across the data. We have previous seasonal campaigns. What's the best platform to look at to help us understand our seasonal data? Okay, so that really depends on what ads you've run in the past through which publishers. So if you've run Google ads before, Google Analytics GA4 is going to be your best friend. It'll be your best and worst enemy. We have tons of blogs on our website that help you understand how to use it and how to operate it. But there's a lot of data analysis that's built into the publishers like Google, like Facebook. I think also you can look at things that are very anecdotal. You know, when did you get an influx of customers? When did you start getting more phone calls? When did people start asking more questions? That'll at least help you narrow it down to a time frame. So looking at that data, looking at what was happening during your peak times, what ads did you have running? Did you have a special? What products were you offering? Those are the kinds of things that are going to help you determine what decisions to make. And then if you are working with Local IQ or you're working with another partner where you have access to a data dashboard, that's where it's really, really going to be helpful, because we offer not just the data, but the insights. So what do you do with that data? And I think that that helps you look at not only your metrics, but the creatives that you used, and then the various platforms. And then if you don't have any sort of historical data, maybe you weren't running or you weren't able to access your data, or data is just not your thing, utilizing benchmarks is going to be really valuable. You can use our 2025 search and Facebook benchmarks, and that'll give you a starting point. That'll help you understand what you do this year and if it's in line for your industry. And then you can start next year looking back at what you did and then making those decisions. So thank you everyone for joining today. I had a blast answering questions and meeting all of you. Again, if you didn't get your question answered, or if you had something really specific, click yes to that poll and we will have an expert talk to you later on. So thank you so much, and we will see you next webinar.